4chan has been hacked hard. The source code of the site has been leaked to the world, and the identity of the moderators, the janitors of the site, have been leaked as well. In this video, I want to go over how this happened and talk about how the code was so vulnerable and what went down to allow this to happen. Now, to set the stage, this is 4chan. I'm showing you a picture of 4chan and not 4chan itself. A, to not get demonetized on YouTube, but also B, 4chan isn't loading. It hasn't been loading for over 24 hours. And this is because of a little bit of warfare that went on between two parties, I think, in the 4chan community, right? So there's 4chan, the staff, the moderators have a variety of boards on the site, right? You have anime and manga, you have food and cooking, and then you have hentai, if you're into that, I guess. And one of the boards used to be QA. So QA was the question and answer board. This is kind of as it sounds. You would go and ask things and you would get answers. Hooray. Now, this group of people known as the Wojaks or the Soyjaks. And please understand, if you're new to this community or you're new to this channel or just the internet in general, there are layers and layers of meme etymology that you don't necessarily have to understand. Just understand there are Soyjaks and Wojaks on QA that eventually cause the channel to get deleted. Now, ever since the deletion of QA, there's been rumors that there's going to be a hack or there's going to be an attack because the community of people were extremely upset when QA got deleted. It got deleted because of a variety of trolling and hate posting on the forum. And then even on April Fools of this year, 4chan re-enabled QA as like a hey, fuck you. And then so yesterday on the 14th, the site went down in its entirety and then came back up with QA returns with the board being back active, supposedly because the hackers had gotten into the system and turned it back on. The whole situation is like two nerd parties fighting, right? And again, I'm a nerd. I'm not shitting on them. I'm just saying it's a nerd party. It's like in elementary school, you had like the Yu-Gi-Oh kids and you had the Magic the Gathering kids, and they would always get into altercations about like which game was better. It's the same idea, it's just we're talking about 4chan and different chans on the internet. In the wake of this data, a ton of user data has been exposed. So obviously, the site's source code being accessed and given to the internet, I have it, we're gonna go into it in a second. That is a bad thing, but one of the main concerns and kind of like the more conspiratorial things people are talking about is the email addresses of the admins, again, the janitors, have been exposed and doxed. Some of them are .edu and .gov addresses. This is feeding this larger conspiracy theory that 4chan for some amount of time has been like a CIA honeypot and that it's being ran by the government. Now, would the government, while running a honeypot, use a .gov address? I'm not sure about that, but this is one of the running theories. The reason why exposing admin email addresses is also bad is when you have this hate mob or this mob of angry people on 4chan, right? They're posting really messed up stuff. When they get banned on 4chan or when their posts get deleted, they tend to not be happy. And who are they not happy with? Typically the moderators that ban them. So now that their identities have been exposed to the world, we're talking about 4chan, the people who are notorious for tracking down people based on minimal information and then finding where they live and ordering 700 pizzas to their house, right? These are the kings of doing this kind of stuff. Don't forget, this is the same group that when Shia LaBeouf in 2016, before Donald Trump got elected, he had a flag that said, "He will not divide us," and he kept hanging it up in different pictures and just like live streaming the flag. These people were able to use a map of the sky to like triangulate exactly where the flag was and take it down, much to Shia LaBeouf's dismay. So when it comes to finding out where you live based on minimal information, these guys probably know what they're doing. Now that they have their email addresses, and arguably if it's a .edu, I'm assuming their names, right? These admins are not safe, which is honestly really unfortunate. And then obviously user IP info. This isn't gonna identify you, right? You can't identify a person based off of an IP from 10 years ago. But the thing is, if you're posting weird stuff, if you have like this sub identity where like you know, you're a dad during the day, but then you go post like furry Rule 34 Overwatch diva pictures on 4chan, maybe this leak is not the greatest thing for you, right? So that's not very good. And the entire site ran on outdated PHP, which we need to talk about because it is truly shocking how out of date this website was. The architecture of 4chan is like OG internet. Like I learned to code on the architecture that 4chan has, right? You have a PHP backend that is used to render HTML to the front end. It's like the classic way the internet used to be before this very confusing like JavaScript everywhere world, okay? This is a source code that came from one of the hackers, and again, this is supposedly, right? No one can prove that this is the code that actually runs 4chan, but there are a lot of good indicators in this code base. Like, no one would write this giant code base as like a deception thing, right? Like, this is literally, you have janitors, you have mod, you have like all of these variable names indicate that this probably is from 4chan. I can't confirm that. No one can confirm that except for 4chan moderators themselves, but this looks pretty good. Now, you may already see what I'm seeing, but from an overall code smell perspective, right, the way that researchers typically start an audit is they look at things and they're like, how does this code smell? How bad is it from first glance? How hard do I have to look? And when you see things like file get contents www keys 2015 encryption key, meaning that a potential encryption key has not been rolled for 10 years, not inspiring confidence. And you will also notice that I'm doing this in a virtual machine. The reason for this is when I downloaded the 7-zip off the internet, Windows Defender flagged it as a virus. I put it into a VM to protect myself. There are also other things that are a little funny in here, like they use Google Authenticator. Oh, okay. Awesome, very good. So they're using two-factor authentication. How do they do that? Google Authenticator, okay, good. Let's go look at that real quick. Google Authenticator package maintained by a guy named PHPGangster. Okay, cool. And if we go to his website, we will see that, okay, there is a 500 internal server error. Not inspiring a ton of confidence. So things like this, we have old keys, we have these libraries that are not maintained, and one of the biggest ones people are speculating is the SQL injection, right? The SQL injection. This is kind of like the go-to vulnerability in web applications for a variety of reasons. One of them is that it is like really difficult if you don't know what you're doing or if you're using an old code base to sanitize user input. What this query does, it gets the auth secret from mod users where username equals this, and this, if it's not properly sanitized, can be used to inject additional data into the query, and then that can be used to add an admin user, right? I know this is probably like an internal query. The problem that we're seeing is that all the queries go to this MySQL global call function, which is a custom function by the developers of 4chan. And then inside of MySQL global call, they are doing a positive security thing. They're doing try escape string, which is a function that tries to take what could be malicious characters in the SQL query and make them non-malicious, right? You take the quotes, you escape them, and by escaping them, you make it so that they're not interpreted by the SQL interpreter as SQL. The problem with this is inside try escape string, they do MySQL real escape string. Now, what we are going to do is go and copy this function, and we're going to go look it up in the PHP docs. And you may see that this function has been deprecated in PHP 5.5.0, and it was removed in PHP 7.0.0. Let's just do a little Google release date. Okay. Yeah, so this has been deprecated since 2013. We are, if you didn't know this, we are in 2025. This is a 12-year deprecation of a function. The reason it's deprecated is that MySQL real escape string does a great job of escaping characters in the ASCII character set, right? In the regular character set. However, if you use non-ASCII characters, if you use another language that has different characters in it, there are ways for you to escape, to basically use the function to escape different characters and leave regular characters in there. One of them being, someone sent this to me on Twitch chat. This is a tutorial on how to use basically, I think, a Chinese character set to do an SQL injection, even if they use MySQL escape string. One thing that's kind of interesting is you'll notice that there are actually 2 copies of every file. You have lib auth.php, where kind of like this ugly code lives, and I think there's actually another hint to a 2014 admin salt. So again, just like code smell terrible everywhere. They're also rolling their own auth and like setting the passwords inside of cookies and then using those cookies to do SQL queries that could be injectable. So there's just a ton of stuff that's wrong with this. But what is interesting is that there's libauth and then there's auth. Okay, there are 2 files, and what it looks like is they are working on updating the code base to a more modern code base, right? Instead of just doing like these single weirdo like helper functions that are kind of scattered all over the code base, they're doing more of a proper like object-oriented design where we have like an app and the app has properties, and the app has functions that do things to an object, and it has statefulness where if it is HXR or not. Like it looks like they were in the process of updating, but may have never got around to it. Another just damning piece of evidence that I found floating around on Twitter. What was the hashing algorithm in the database? If you don't know what hashing is, basically you don't want to store your passwords in plain text, because if a hacker were to compromise that database, being able to just pull the passwords out would make the damage of the hack extremely bad. And so in the database, they are doing bcrypt, which is like a proper library that's used for doing encryption. But for the Nginx basic auth, if you don't know what basic auth is, I can show you. Whenever you get a prompt on a website that looks like this, nope, there we go, like this. This is the website doing basic auth. It's literally looking for a particular authorization header that has username, password in it. They were using MD5, okay? And MD5 is, again, another hashing algorithm that has been widely deprecated. MD5 is a deprecated cryptographic hash function. It has been used deprecated to vulnerabilities like collision attacks and the availability of more secure alternatives. Basically, it's a very weak hashing algorithm, right? And so the person that hacked the site supposedly got access to the hash file for the Nginx basic auth username and password lookup table, was able to crack all these passwords. And again, from a password security standpoint, we're not doing too good. I feel bad for doxing these people, but this is literally all over Twitter, so I guess I'm not contributing too much. How was the hack perpetrated? Supposedly, this is a post on somethingawful.com, which again, if you're an internet person from a long time ago, Something Awful may have just triggered a suppressed memory for you. But how did the 4chan hack take place? This is what happened. What was the exploit used? Contrary to popular belief, it was not an SQL injection. The exploit is as such. 4chan allows uploading PDFs to certain boards. So these are a bunch of different boards on 4chan. I didn't frequent these boards. I don't know what they are. But they neglected to verify that the uploaded file is actually a PDF file. So this is a huge problem with web app maintenance, is that when you have a forum, for example, where you're allowing users to upload content, one of the things you probably want to make sure that you're doing is verifying that the content they upload is the type that they say it is, right? If you're not doing this, you leave your site up to so many vulnerabilities, because people can just I'm going to upload definitely not malware.exe.pdf. Obviously for a Linux example, it doesn't apply here, but you see my point. So as such, PostScript files containing PostScript drawing commands can be uploaded. Said PostScript files will be passed to GhostScript to generate a thumbnail image of the PostScript file. The version of GhostScript that 4chan uses is from 2012. So it is trivial to exploit. So what they have to do is upload a PostScript file that takes advantage of a vulnerability inside this version of GhostScript, and bada bing, bada boom, they're able to get onto the site. And then from there, we exploit a mistakenly set UID binary to elevate to the global user. So what they're able to do with this is now use the set UID binary to set the UID of their session to a higher level, privilege escalation. And then from there, bada bing, bada boom, they own the site. Inevitably and unfortunately, I think 4chan will come back. I think probably today or tomorrow, we'll see the site come back to life, but it will likely take a complete re-architecture, maybe a complete rewrite of the code base, for it to not be as wide open as it has been for the last 12 or so years. And honestly, they will maybe never know if their infrastructure has, been rid of the hackers, and it may just take a complete rebuild for them to figure it out. Guys, if you like this kind of video, do me a favor, hit that like button, hit subscribe. I do these kinds of videos all the time. And then go check this video about AI prompt injection with invisible prompts. It's pretty sweet. We'll see you there.